Get ready to sip and strategize on today's episode of the Franchise Happy Hour. We have an episode packed with strategic insights and entrepreneurial wisdom as we sit down with the dynamic Josh DuBois, a franchise consultant, licensed affiliate with Business Alliance, and founder and CEO of JDStrategic. In 2020, Josh embarked on a mission fueled by a passion for entrepreneurialism, giving the rise and birth of JDStrategic. He identified a common thread among many of that he encountered: individuals feeling confined by their current careers and yearning for a limitless potential. Josh's goal is clear: to provide strategic value to your career in a manner that transcends the ordinary. He understands that unlocking that true potential requires a strategic approach, and such JDStrategic was the conduit for that transformation. As a franchise consultant and licensed affiliate with the Business Alliance, Josh is at the forefront for guiding individuals through the maze of possibilities in the franchise world. His keen understanding of the intersection between career and entrepreneurialism sets him apart. So, Josh, welcome to the Franchise Happy Hour.
Wow, Dylan, that was quite the introduction. I'm honored to be on the podcast. I think this is awesome. I love what you're doing in the franchising world. I was just at a convention and we're constantly talking about the opportunity in franchising and how we just need to continue to educate people on the opportunity. So I love what you're doing, just posting content consistently on social media. So I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate that introduction, and we get to do two of my favorite things, drink whiskey and talk franchising. So cheers to the viewers, and let's have a great day, everyone.
Excellent, man. Well, I am super excited to have this conversation with you, and to you out there, whether you like a timeless cocktail, a warm cup of coffee, or just a cool glass of water, seize your drink and settle in for a conversation that promises to inspire and show you how to unlock the doors to future potential right here on the Franchise Happy Hour. Let's get it going. All right, brother. So I got to ask, are you having anything to drink tonight when we're on this call?
Yes, sir. So I know we were kind of talking a little before. We got, I guess the blurred background's kind of messing it up, but I do have some Maker's Mark in this cup. Whiskey's really, I'm not much of a drinker. I could honestly count on one hand how many times I've drank in the last 3 months, but this is a special occasion on the Franchise Happy Hour, so had to break out the special whiskey.
I love it, man. I'm doing the same. I got a little bit more than what I would consider a knuckle, so my mom probably wouldn't be too happy about that. But I am having some American honey, if you are familiar with that. I love that stuff. Just a nice little afternoon snack, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I don't know, have you ever tried the screwball whiskey or doughball whiskey?
I have. I've had the screwball whiskey. I can say that I've been out a few times, and golfing, screwball
Yeah.
whiskey and
Ooh.
Fireball are the two go-tos when we're out golfing.
Yeah, screwball and golf, that sounds dangerous. I can't imagine 18 holes with whiskey that good.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, my golf game has not improved. And so hopefully, I don't think that whiskey has ever improved my golf game, but then again, it's never made it worse either. So
Yeah. Hey, it's about the connectivity and the relationships on the golf course, as long as everyone's having fun.
that's 100% right, man. Well, hey, again, thank you so much for participating in the Franchise Happy Hour. Appreciate the support. I really enjoyed getting to meet you when you came out to the confirmation day that we hosted with BAI. Such an awesome opportunity to sit down, talk franchising, and here we are again, just getting to do it, but then other people can actually listen to this conversation too. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, me too, 100%. And I think since COVID, a lot of stuff has kind of moved to online and virtual, but nothing can really ever replace those in-person connections. And I think as a broker, especially with the BAI you mentioned, you represent over 300 brands. It's important, if you're going to actually recommend a brand to someone, to have that personal relationship, know the people that you're making those recommendations for. So I think it's super valuable to be able to spend time with you guys in person and really, have a glass of whiskey, learn about the business, talk shop, also talk, family, friendships, relationships. So all that stuff is just very powerful. So it was awesome that you guys are doing stuff like that, hosting brokers. And I think it's just really good to continue. I always talk about kind of the alignment in franchising, whether it's franchisees and franchisors, but even, franchisors and brokers, or even just employees at franchising and the CEO of the franchise. Everyone's just so aligned to really empower others to take control of their future, which, I'm sure we'll dive into today. But I think it was an awesome event. And, it's great between the podcast, the in-person events. It's just great to see all of it happening.
Oh man, I appreciate that you throwing that out there a little bit. I couldn't agree more with the relationship between broker, franchisor, and franchisee. Even after they sign, I think that there's still a huge potential there for you as a consultant, as a broker, to stay engaged and talk to them. And we'll definitely get into that some more today. But first, I want to start out. Let's start out from the ground. How did you get into the franchise consulting role, and kind of what inspired you to take that leap of faith?
Wow, this is a big question. How much time do we have? Sometimes when I start talking, I can keep going.
We got all the time that you need, brother.
Well, overall, I kind of say that I've always had an outside perspective of franchising, although I kind of went my own route. So my father, kind of growing up, it was my father, my mother, myself, and my younger sister. And really up until, I was 10, 11, 12 years old, it was really, I didn't see my father very much because he was the owner of a restaurant, a small business restaurant. And if anyone's ever had any experience in the food industry, it's 7 days a week, morning, nights, weekends. It's a lot of sacrifice to be able to provide for your family. And unfortunately, you don't get to really see your family. So the very few times I really did see my father growing up was really when my mother would take us to the restaurant to see my father. And I'd see him literally just grinding it out in the kitchen, doing whatever it took to be able to provide for myself, my sister, my mother. So watching that growing up was always very inspiring. And overall, he kind of figured out, I want to take that control of my future. I want to spend time with my family. I want to watch my son grow up. I want to watch my daughter grow up. So he made the investment and bought a dry cleaning franchise. And that's when I really started to watch our whole family dynamic change. Like literally we were going to Disney World, we were taking family vacations. He was at all my baseball games, my basketball games. We were up at like 5:30 in the morning for doubleheader AU baseball games. And he was always there for me because he had control over his schedule. And watching that from an early age was really powerful. And I eventually watched him scale it to be a multi-unit franchisee. And he eventually became the CEO of the dry cleaning business. So he's both a franchisor and a franchisee on top of the CEO of a franchise business. So I've kind of always had that outside perspective, and watching that definitely always shaped my experiences. So my own personal experiences, I was very fortunate enough in high school to get real world experience. There was actually an owner in a town nearby that did what's called a semi-absentee model, where basically you kind of put a general manager in place to grow the business while you've kind of already ramped up the business. And that was kind of my responsibility in high school. I managed the dry cleaning business over my 4 years. So it gave me a really cool experience. And really the big lesson for me was watching someone that's not in the finance industry, that's a business owner, that's not physically hands-on in the business, and he's scaling and growing a business while also pursuing other passions and interests that he has. So from an early age, that always really resonated with me. And then I went to college, and college just was never for me. I was fortunate enough, I did real estate selection of a bunch of franchises. So learning all the tools and resources that go into franchising and all the behind the scenes to actually figure out, all right, is that location going to be successful? It's not a guessing game. It's, all right, these are the numbers, these are the demographics, these are how many people are going to use your service. And continuing on that theme, it was just very powerful. And then over the years, I've been very fortunate enough to go to a bunch of the international franchise expos at the Javits Center and just been exposed to so many countless franchising brands, stories, not only my father's, but it's just been very inspirational. So overall, my own path after that. Like I said, college wasn't for me. After I graduated high school, I actually started taking college courses right away. I did summer courses every semester in college. All these experiences, I was very career oriented. I knew college just wasn't really for me. So I actually graduated from University of Florida in the fall of 2020 in 3.5 years. And it was kind of like a weird hiring cycle, kind of in the prime of COVID. So, I was placing a lot of job applications out, not even really getting responses from most companies. And, it was kind of defeating, kind of overwhelming. And I was very fortunate enough before graduating, I actually landed a part-time role, which later transitioned into a full-time role after graduating. And basically what I did and what I wanted to do, no one in my family had really ever gone the finance route. And I always kind of thought, if you're going to work 40 hours a week, you might as well go into the most profitable industry. So I
Yep.
kind of tried that out. I was at a small boutique firm. We did recruiting of high level investment and distribution talent. And it was a really cool position. I got to run research for them. We were participating in literally like $1 million deals. So a lot of cool experiences. I was actually very lucky, making pretty good money coming out of college, making literally like a 5-figure bonus, which not a lot of people could say at my age. So
Nice.
it was really exciting and a lot of really rewarding. And I'm very grateful for the experience. But, going back to just my franchising experience, and what really resonated with me with what I was doing is we were dealing with people making well over 7 figures a year in finance, which is believed to be the most profitable industry, in my opinion. And these people still didn't have, that security, that comfort. And in my opinion, they just weren't that happy of a person, just because, people just want to be able to provide for their family. And in finance, you never know when you're going to get replaced by the younger person, when there's a tough economic cycle. So you just never have that control over your future. Whether you're literally making $20 million a year, you still hear people say, like, I can't provide for my family. And it really resonated with me that you need to really take control of your future. And then one other thing that I just want to point out is when I first started working, I would talk to people in corporate America that were there for 20, 30 years. And I was excited to first start working. Like I said, I was very career oriented. I'd literally be like, I love my job. My job's awesome. And they would literally laugh in my face. They thought the idea of liking your job was pretty funny. And, that was just defeating for me. I was like, if you're going to work 20, 30, 40 years for someone, you should at least be pretty passionate about what you're doing. So all these things really played a strong role into kind of why I'm a franchise consultant, and we're almost there yet. I know I've probably taken more than enough time at this point, but at this point I'm in corporate America. I'm working a 9 to 5, and all these things are just playing such a strong role. And I realize you need to take control of your future. And I'm really realizing that, a lot of people just don't have these very basic skills. I graduated from college with a fancy business degree. I did internships for finance companies, and I literally had no idea what the stock market was. I couldn't tell you how to balance a checkbook. I don't know how to pay taxes. And just kind of learning, the system is not necessarily set up for you to succeed unless you really take control of your future and really take those action items. So this is when I started building my social media presence with really the goal of these 3 basic principles. 1, the financial freedom; 2, the lifestyle freedom; and 3, just having that impact on other people. So I literally just started posting content on social media, mostly through Instagram, of super basic things like keeping track of your monthly expenses, keeping a spreadsheet so that you can feel comfortable investing money into yourself. But these super basic skills that people just didn't understand, or, what the S&P 500 was. So trying to make a small difference in people's lives. And I started getting good feedback, like, this is actually improving my financial literacy. And, I started actually feeling, a difference in other people's lives. So I found this super rewarding. And very quickly I was introduced to the guys at Everyday Success Team, which at this point they've helped over 25,000 people build their social media presence. So they helped me build my social media presence, and then they launched this automated software. So I know everyone says they have this all-in-one marketing software, but they do a really good job. And something I use for my personal business is to help me automate my business, build your Google reviews, build your social media. So I had the really cool opportunity to be a manager for them, where you're able to really help other people build their social media, and really take control of their future as well. So while I was in corporate America, I spent mornings, nights, weekends trying to scale this marketing agency to a point where very much like franchising, where they have the systems, the resources in place, and then you build up your clients, you build up the residual income so that you really have that asset. So as I was able to help over 200 people while I was in corporate America scale their business, build their Google reviews, build their social media, I was able to kind of achieve a small sense of financial freedom to a point where now I wanted to figure out what the next stages of JD Strategic were. And now finally, just going back to my franchising experience from the outside world, I just don't think there's a better opportunity going back to my why and those three things, the financial freedom, the lifestyle freedom, and the impact. I really don't see any opportunity outside of franchising that allows all three of those things. And, I've just seen it firsthand through my family and through my father. So I just think it's just such an incredible opportunity where I just kind of felt like it was the natural transition. Whereas after building the marketing agency, now I can kind of help other people take that same control of their future. So I know I went on a tangent, but hopefully
No.
that sums it up in a nutshell.
No, I think you did an excellent job. And I'm sure that, I guarantee right now there is somebody listening that is going through exactly what you just described. And they're looking for that exit strategy. How do I get out of this grind? How do I make an impact on my life, gain that financial freedom? I know you said three things. I lost the other one. But, I think it's a crucial part of being a consultant, in my opinion. It's crucial to have your reasonings why, right? So, just like you're talking to candidates all the time, hey, what's your why? Getting to that expression, always talking to them about and reminding them, as they're going through the process with a franchisor, you have to remember that. But I think it's important for you as a consultant as well to understand why you're doing it. And it sounds like to me like you've really dialed that in and you've built something from that. So my next question really is about JD Strategic. Where was the passion behind that? Where was what was the inspiration to call it that? Like, why did you choose JD Strategic?
Yeah, and I think all of those are really good points and kind of talking about your why. And that's really where it all comes to. Like I'm looking at my dream board right now, and it literally says providing value to other people through those three things that I mentioned. And for me, like I mentioned, I've just been so blessed in my life. Most of the people that I look up to, they had to overcome these crazy obstacles. And I always say, like, you're always one opportunity away, one connection away, one relationship away, one generation away from really changing everything. And for me, watching my father and my mother, who really came from nothing, really changed the whole family dynamic to really franchising in that one decision, that really just played such a strong role. And for me, just watching them have that strong work ethic, I actually have this chain that says we have to have the mindset that we have to work for everything we're going to get. So although I'm very privileged, I like to have the idea that I have to outwork every single person on a daily basis. I work Saturdays, Sundays, my Mondays, the same as my Saturday, the same as my Friday and my Sunday. And like you said, figuring out that why, that's really where it comes to, because I've struggled to find my why going back to when I was in college. And the number I like to say is 97%. I think that's the number of people that don't know their why, they don't know their passion. And it's really, really hard when you don't know your why to go through life. And there's so many distractions nowadays from even just family, friends, but the Netflix, sports seasons, football is here, it's easy for the next 4 months to fly by and you're kind of in that same position. So I just think it's very easy. There's so many distractions. And like I said earlier, we're not necessarily set up for success unless you really take that control. So like I said, I've kind of been there where I graduated from college, had the degree, didn't really know what I wanted to do. You start applying to all these jobs that say they're entry level, but then they say they need 3 to 5 years of experience. So you're kind of just feeling so overwhelmed. And I feel like it's that point where you look at all these successful people that are kind of on their step 100, I like to say. And when you graduate from college, you kind of feel like for a lot of people, for myself at least, you kind of feel like you have life, you're supposed to have life figured out. You have the business degree, that's when you get the job for 40 years and you live a life of comfort, you provide for your family, and you don't have to really worry about a job again once you get that first job. And, just learning that's not necessarily the case, going back to my experiences in the finance industry, and just learning you just need to take that control of your future to really find your why. So I think just for a lot of us, we're just kind of subconsciously going through the motion. So that's why the podcast is called Conquer the Mind, because once you can conquer your mind, you can really conquer anything in this world. And really your mind is your greatest asset or your greatest weakness. But the hardest part is when it is that weakness to really turn it into a strength. And that's why I'm so passionate about doing this, because I've been there before in such a short time where I've just felt so lost in my life. So they always say, like, you're in the greatest position to help others, or you were once in that position. So I kind of say there's two groups of people. One, the person that might be just trying to figure out what their why is, what their purpose is. And really my best advice is just start taking action. You're always one opportunity away, one connection away, one relationship away. And then the other type of person is, going back to my experiences in asset management, just watching all these people in finance, which is supposed to be the most profitable industry. If they're still not satisfied financially, lifestyle wise, impact wise, then very few people really in the country feel that satisfaction. So there's really unlimited people to help. And I know on episode 1 of my podcast, I had Dennis Schooley on of Schooley Mitchell, and his number was that 70% of people have considered business ownership. So if 97% of people don't know their why, they don't know their purpose, 70% of people have thought about business ownership. In franchising, it allows you to combine your passions, your interests, and you really get the financial freedom, the lifestyle freedom, the impact. It's just a matter of whether you're wanting to put yourself out there. And it really starts with the mindset, thinking that you are capable of it, and just knowing that every action started with that thought. So the more subconsciously you go through life, the more the days, the weeks, the years pass by and you're still in that same position. Whereas if you're conscious, you take control of that mindset and you understand, you've considered business ownership, then just take that next step. So I just think, my why, where JDStrategic comes from, it really just goes back to those 3 things. And just seeing franchising firsthand, I just think it's so, so powerful. And I think it's so funny. The joke is you fall into franchising, but it creates such a tremendous opportunity to start to educate more people on the opportunity in franchising, because I'm personally convinced that there really is a model for everyone, from, owner operator, semi-absentee, area development. There's just so many different models, so many different participation types, that there's just such an education process, I feel like. So I think my passion really lies in just the idea of this idea of one more. Just every day I wake up, I can help one more person do what I've seen firsthand through my father and for my family, and them being able to take control of their future. So yeah, I think that's really powerful. And not only in franchising, figuring out your why, you kind of start off with the power of figuring out your why. In anything in life, it's just so powerful to figure out your why. And obviously it can't happen overnight, but it really starts from just putting yourself out there. You try different things, and then you start to figure out, all right, what you're passionate about, what you're interested on. And I think that's just so interesting in franchising. If you have the mindset that you're capable of it, they have the systems, the resources, so that you can create those generational wealth opportunities as well for your family. You're just one opportunity away.
Dude, you should put that on. That should be like, you should do a TED Talk. Like, that was TED Talk worthy, brother. I love that. That was great. No, I got every single thing you said. I think the biggest impact that what you said really resonates with me is that you fall into franchising, right? I think that that's the case for a lot of people. You're out there, whether you're searching for a business to buy, I could talk for, 45 minutes about why that's a terrible idea. Just buying a business that already probably has issues, probably, you're accepting all of those negatives and positives, whether you're looking to buy a business. That's why I like franchising so much, man, because if you buy a business, you're out there, you're thinking about buying a business from somebody, there's no one to turn to when you hit that first road bump. There's no one to turn to when the shit hits the fan, if you will, right?
Mhm.
But in franchising, there's somebody that you can
Yeah.
call and say, hey, I'm sure that you've experienced this. What do I do?
Yeah.
And guess what? They've already done the difficult part of figuring out what actually worked, right? And I think that
Right.
that's such a powerful thing. And I think you explained it extremely well about it all starts with understanding where you are in your life right now. What are the things that you want to change? I like to think of, I don't know if you've ever heard of the buckets scenario. So you have 5 different buckets, right? And you have $10 to spend, and you can only put a certain amount of dollars in each bucket. And each bucket is a part of your life, whether it's money, time, happiness, living a fulfilled life, or, helping others. You put your money into that bucket and what means the most
Yeah.
to you. And I think for somebody who's out there listening, you think about that, you think about your buckets, and guess what? There is a franchise out there, and
Mm.
and Josh can help you find that franchise. There's a franchise that can actually satisfy those buckets. And I think it's such a powerful thing. I haven't been in franchising for a super long time, but the time that I have spent in the industry has been just absolutely incredible, watching people, go from, I don't know, I just want to do something myself, right? Like that's where
Yeah.
it starts. And then they go in and they finally do it. They make that leap of faith. They bet on themselves. And then here they are, 2, 3 months later, and they got a smile on their face and they're like, man, I'm really owning it. And I love hearing that. So,
No,
yeah.
that's
So
really powerful. And I think it's just the idea that franchising allows you to reinvent your story. There's a lot of people that get into franchising. It might be their third, fourth, fifth, sixth different career change. But what's so interesting between these people that have transitioned between so many different industries, once they fall into franchising, they don't go back. And you're still new to franchising. I'm sure you'll feel the same way, where there really is just no going back. And it's just a different community in franchising. And I always just kind of going back to the alignment, where franchising, people aren't trying to sell you a franchise. That's literally the worst thing any franchise could
mhm.
do, because brand recognition is literally so powerful in franchising. If you have a franchise in an area that's not willing to grow a territory, they don't want to grow a business, they just want to throw money at it and think they're going to make $0.5 million a year, it's just not the case. So it really is just that two-way education process that I think is so powerful. And just the idea that you can feel lost, but you're just that one opportunity away. Anyone can really reinvent their story, especially if you are someone in corporate America, kind of just going through the motions. And I think another thing that you're kind of talking about is that franchising just allows you to capitalize on your strengths. If you have considered
Mhm.
business ownership, but you're not trying to start your own business, it allows you to figure out what those strengths, what those weaknesses are. And we all have those strengths, we all have those weaknesses. And not all of us have like that Elon Musk type idea or that Amazon type idea, but this allows us to create that business, scale that business. And like you said, with those different buckets, I like how it kind of relates to the 3 things I talked about: the finances, the lifestyle, and the impact. You can kind of evaluate all those different things throughout the education process and figure out what aligns most with you. So I think that's really powerful. And another thing that, kind of building off what you said, is, in franchising or in any business in the stock market, it's easy to make money in these really good economic cycles. And we've kind of been in the last 20 years in a really good economic cycle. The market just continues to grow, businesses continue to grow, but I think a lot of people are starting to predict some sort of recession coming up. At least I'm hearing a lot of concern coming up. And it's easy to make money in these good cycles, but in the bad cycles, that's when the real winners emerge. And you saw that
Mhm.
during COVID, where that's when the strong franchises emerge, like a Joshua Tree experts. You can't just start franchising during a tough economic cycle unless you have the tools, the resources in place to be successful. So that's just such the power of franchising, where, you want to hedge your risk to a certain extent with business ownership.
Mhm.
That allows you to have those tools, those resources, so that in those tougher economic cycles, that allows franchising to continue to get stronger to a certain extent. So I think that's really powerful what you said, and I just wanted to build upon that.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a great point that, hey, we're about to go through everybody. I feel like if you're listening out there, you can feel it,
Yeah.
right? You can feel a little bit of tension. What is that tension? What is that telling you? Well, that's probably telling you that you're not comfortable in the position you're at right now because you don't have that control. Right now, if something were to happen and your company was to lay you off, what are you going to do? Right?
Mm.
Do you work in an industry that is absolutely, recession resistant? Is it, I don't believe that anything specifically is recession proof. I think that it's resistant. Hey, is it a needed service? Is it something that somebody absolutely needs to do? And I
Yeah.
think you brought up a great point, because if you're out there listening and you don't have that security and you think that, the business you're working at right now is a luxury item, it's something that, hey, when it comes to feeding my family or doing this, I'm probably going to feed my family, right? So
Mm.
I think it's powerful because there's an opportunity. There are so many franchises out there, and whether you're talking about Joshua Tree or you're talking about, tons of other ones, that they're necessary services, or they're providing something to the the overall people of the world that is actually needed. And I think that that's a huge impact, because then you can make that change in your life. You have the power to reach out to Josh, talk to
Yeah.
him about your struggles, what you're concerned about. Tell him, one of the things that I always recommend to everybody is be vulnerable in franchising. When you're talking to a consultant, that's probably my number one, recommendation to people out there, is talk about what you're scared about, talk about what you're excited about, and
Yeah.
and almost like you're a therapist, right? Almost. Because the more that somebody tells you something, the more you can understand and take that in and be strategic about it and where
Yeah.
you place them, right?
No, that's really funny that you kind of bring up that point of being vulnerable. And one of the things that I always kind of start my call with candidates is I tell them, like, I'm from Boston. I'm used to people cursing, swearing, F words here, F words there. If you want to swear at me, you want to call me out, do whatever you want. The more honest feedback you give me, the better I can represent you and work on your behalf. So that's really such a good point that you bring up. Be vulnerable. A lot of times that I find really interesting, one of the questions you ask candidates is, what are your passions? What are your interests? And a lot of times people have really not even been asked that question since they were a child. So, it really opens up their eyes even to be asked a question like that. So it's just this idea that franchising is so unique, where typically you think of a consultant where you're paying someone money for their time, but franchising is so unique where it's such a regulated industry where we work on your behalf, very much kind of like a realtor, to really just identify those top opportunities. So I think that's really powerful, with just be vulnerable, be honest with yourself. Really, because the more honesty you give, the better, someone can represent yourself. So I think a lot of candidates, they want to window shop, they want to see as many opportunities as possible, but rather we can save you a lot of time and a lot of money if you just be brutally honest with us up front, because we already have, the 28 years of experience doing this, so that we can save you that time and money and better align those opportunities. And another thing that I thought you brought up that's really interesting is that job security. And yeah, people during those tough economic cycles, obviously there's going to be a lot of layoffs. And I'm kind of kicking the finance industry a lot just because that's kind of where I was. But you have a lot of people, they all get this, they're certain financial exams, they all have the same fancy business degrees. And I kind of say the number one law of business is supply and demand. But if you have all these thousands and thousands of people with the same credentials, the same skills, they can very easily train someone that's 20 years old coming out of college to replace them. And so you never have that sense of financial freedom, no matter
Mhm.
really what industry you are, unless you really are a business ownership. And, the study of the average millionaire really teaches us this and really hammers that point in. And I think another point breaking off what you said is, the ability to just be building valuable skills. So a lot of people in finance, they all have the same skills. When you're a business owner, when you're a franchise owner, you're learning so many valuable skills. So I think a lot of times when people are evaluating a job or the next opportunity, it's really about the growth and the culture. A lot of times people think, oh, my income might be tapped. But that's definitely not even close to the case. But despite that, you're learning so many valuable skills as a franchise owner so that it can just allow you to get to that next opportunity as you do build all these valuable skills that no one else can really represent. And I know one of the things my father brought up in episode 3 of the Conquer the Mind podcast was just the idea of an entrepreneur. You could drop them anywhere in the world and they still have those valuable skills so that they can start to make money. They can start to provide value to other people. And that's just so powerful in franchising where you're just not limited. You're going to learn all these valuable skills. We'll figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, and then we can really get you to capitalize on that. And then the last thing that you brought up is just the ability to be recession resistant. And I think that word's definitely thrown out a lot in franchising to a point where, come on, you're not recession resistant. But I think it's an important point where, just going to the international franchise shows over the years, a lot of times people, they go in, they bring a lunch tray, I like to say. They're just kind of going to all the food franchises and it's easy to say that's where the people are, that's where I want to invest my money. But you should look at, what are the ones that have those established track records, that have those strong corporate leadership, and the ones that, we talk about hedging risk. You don't want to necessarily buy that business and have to sell it every single day with like this new food concept, this new health and wellness concept. You want a concept that people continually rely on so that you have the brand recognition, you bring it to a market, and then you just provide that good or value. You're not trying to convince someone that a product or service works. So I think those are all some really big points that you brought up, Dylan. I just wanted to hammer in as well.
No, I think that's a good point. You started on something that I was going to touch on too. And it's like, just because one of the things that I always find is interesting is when someone pushes back, they're like, that doesn't sound like something I would buy. And it's like, listen, you're not the consumer, you're the owner, you're the entrepreneur, you run the business, right? You don't necessarily, just because you specifically would not buy this service or buy this item or, whatever the franchise actually does, you're not the consumer.
Yeah.
Let the franchisor show you who the consumer is, and then you make sense of it, right? Like I think of oh my gosh, what is it? The dog poop pickup one, like that one, like duty calls or something like that.
Yeah.
And like to me, it's like, you can't put yourself in that, like, I would never have somebody come to my house and do that. And it's like, no, you might not, but thousands and thousands of other people would.
Right.
And so, you have to kind of be vulnerable in a sense that you're also open-minded, that you're not like fully tagged on to like, this is what I buy and this is what I want to get into. You kind of have to let you do your job and say, hey, what you're telling me, this is actually a better opportunity for you. Have an open mind, talk to them at the very least. I think one of the things that I've heard from consultants, as I've gone through this is just do 2 calls, right? Have a couple calls at least. Get to know the people, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the franchisor is selling, right? It really doesn't. It matters if you can trust those individuals and partner with them, because it's a marriage, right? Can you partner with them and actually enjoy the time that you're with them? And I think that that's just a huge part that people don't necessarily think about when they first get into franchising. So I just kind of want to throw that out and build that off what you said.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and I want to ask you a quick question. So if the listeners out there, I want you to be able to tell them how awesome franchising is in this sense. So if I'm a franchisee, Josh, how am I going to pay you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think really the biggest question mark, because as I mentioned with consultants, they have such a bad rep where you're paying someone for their time. You're paying them on their own schedule. You kind of work on their time, on their schedule. And in franchising, like I said, it's such a regulated industry where we're paid by the franchisors. So my partnership with the BAI is so powerful where there's thousands and thousands of franchising opportunities. They diligently represent the top 350 plus opportunities. So given that they are such a top opportunity, these people get hundreds of leads every week. And that just emphasizes the two-way interview process and the education process. But that's why it really is that education process, kind of diving off
Yeah.
that. They pay us very much like an executive recruiter. So they're getting hundreds of leads every week. So they're franchise developers. They don't want to deal with hundreds and hundreds of unqualified leads. So that's where my role comes in, to make sure that you are a qualified lead, to make sure that you are interested in business ownership, to make sure you do have the capital. And if you don't have the capital, don't ever count yourself out. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions in franchising. If you work with me, I can completely provide a free introduction to my partners at Fran Fund. That'll be totally free, just like my services. And you're continuing to wonder, how is all this stuff free? The federal trade regulation like heavily regulates this industry, so that you can't, whether you use a consultant or don't use a consultant, the price to purchase a franchise is literally the exact price. And I'll give you a good story of really why my role is so critical. So I won't give specific names, but I did recently, I'm down in Miami and I met someone that did make the investment into a franchise, not a franchise that I represent. And just like any industry, there's good apples and there's bad apples. That's why the BAI relationship is so powerful, where we've weeded out those bad apples to identify the top opportunities, so that my role is very much just to get to know what you're looking for. Then I can align that with those top opportunities. So going back to kind of the story, so she had made this investment into a cruise franchise, and I won't give the specific name, but she was told by, the franchise developer that there was only one other competitor and that this was the best in the industry. And I could personally tell you, there's over 10 different franchises in that industry, and I hadn't even really heard of the franchise she had invested in. And not on top of this, it took her 3 years to make that decision and feel comfortable with it. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, I'm speechless as you are. So basically, I could present you the top opportunities like within 24, 48 hours, if that. And basically why this BAI relationship is so powerful is because, just like there's bad consultants, there's bad financial advisors, there's bad teachers, there's good teachers, there's bad everything, there's good everything. But the BAI has those 28 years of experience going through the FDDs, looking through the financial statements, meeting the corporate leadership, like the COO of BAI was at the in-person event with Joshua Tree, evaluating everything. So everyone's so hands-on to make sure that we're representing those top opportunities, so that we can really just set our partners up for success. So basically, it is so weird, and it's weird that it is free. It seems like it should be charged something. So even as I'm saying it out loud, it's still like, so where's that hidden fee somewhere? And there's not a hidden fee anywhere. So I don't know like how to emphasize it enough, but my job is literally just to save you a lot of time and save you money throughout the process, not to mention countless headaches. So that, and I always say, I don't sell franchises by any means. We may determine franchising is not for you. You may want to start your own business, for example, and I applaud that. That's awesome. I applaud any entrepreneur. But the goal is that you feel educated and confident in that decision. Going back to that 70% number, if 70% of people have thought about business ownership, and it's like less than 1% have even gone through
Done it.
anything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are second guessing whether it's right for them, and franchising allows you to capitalize on your strengths, on your weaknesses, save you time, save you money. The only thing you're investing in, and this really is your greatest investment, is your time. But if you are interested in business ownership, I'm sure it'll be worth it, because if you try to do it by yourself, we will save you a lot of time, a lot of headache. And at the very least, I'll do all the heavy lifting and just present the opportunities, so that in your free time, you can quickly look over them and see if that's right for you, and we'll allow you to make that educated decision.
Yeah, man, that was a great explanation. I couldn't have said any better. Just to recap on that, he's free. It's free. I promise I'm a part of a franchisor. You don't pay anything different. I promise that is a thing. And Josh, you absolutely hit the nail on the head with that. I want to talk about something while we still got time here. Have you been able to make a placement? Have you found that franchise for somebody yet?
Yeah, and that's a really great question. First off, I'm not going to go on for minutes and minutes and then say no, because no, I haven't placed any candidate. So kind of going back to my story with JD Strategic, I had actually just left corporate America a couple months ago. And, just like anyone making that decision in franchising, I turned away a nice 9 to 5 salary. I turned away what I would have got as a 5-figure bonus so that I could invest 5 figures to become a broker, to have the resources of the BAI.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what it takes to take that risk. I've seen in my family people take that risk. So I understand you're taking that risk. You have that family, and obviously, number one is being able to provide for your family. So it's no easy decision trying to leave corporate America to make those next steps. But really, the goal is to make those steps a little bit easier for you. So basically, I became a broker with the BAI over the last 2, 3 months. So basically, with franchising, kind of going back to the education process, it typically takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to feel fully educated on an opportunity. So as once you get to know me, you'll see there's a step-by-step process. And I always say no one's asking you to buy a business on day one or even day 30. It really is a 3 to 6 month education process. So that
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to think of reasons to say no, we'll continue to educate you so that you can have that educated decision. So currently I have numerous candidates that are meeting with franchises. So they're talking to a lot of brands and they're close to that decision point. They're almost at that validation phase, the discovery day. So basically
Mm-hmm.
that final point in the decision-making process, which is really exciting. But currently I have not placed a candidate, but just being on the calls every day, I kind of say, after leaving corporate America, a lot of people really do like the cushion of a 9 to 5 and business ownership isn't for them. But getting on a call at like 10:30 at night or, that 5:30 a.m. notification that a lead came in, like that's awesome for me. Going back to the idea, you're one opportunity away. Like every day, I just have that one opportunity to help that next person create those generational wealth opportunities. So, I'm passionate about what I do. It's a lot of fun connecting with new people, learning about all their different experiences, and connecting with people all across the world, building new relationships and learning about their story and seeing how franchising can potentially help them. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun over the last 3 months. And, I'm super excited to continue the journey and, hopefully continue to help people take those next steps in their career, like I've seen firsthand through my family.
Yeah, I can tell you this. I have got to meet a lot of consultants who have been successful, those who are, just starting out, just getting started. I can tell you this, if you're listening and you want to partner with somebody who is going to grind, Josh is going to grind. I promise you that. You can come back at me if you want to, but I know this dude is absolutely going to do everything he can to help you find that franchise. I can tell you this, not every single consultant is doing what he's doing. Not every single consultant's going to pick up that phone at 10 o'clock at night when you're feeling overwhelmed. He will do it. I truly believe he will. And if you think about, successful like businesses in general, you are listening right now to like the Steve Jobs of franchise consulting. I swear, because I think you are absolutely going to kill it. I have no doubt in my mind that if we talk this time next year, you have 10, 15, possibly even like 20 placements that you've helped out people. I think you are absolutely going to crush it, man. So I just want to give you some props. I think you're doing it right. You're working hard. You're grinding, dude. And I love that for you. So I appreciate you being on again.
Dylan, well, thank you so much. I'm kind of speechless after that. That's a tremendous, tremendous praise. And it really just goes back to, it's really nothing special that I do. It's really just, I just surround myself with people that are really great at what they do. So literally just surrounding myself with industry veterans, like, Yesterday, I was at Palm Beach Atlantic at the Titus Center of Franchising with literally people with hundreds and hundreds of years of experience in franchising, just learning about industry updates, how to really stay top of date in my industry. And, I think just the greatest asset for most people, kind of going back to the one opportunity, one connection, it's all about the people you surround yourself with. I've been there before where, you're on your step one of 100 and you're trying to figure it all out on yourself. Once you start to surround yourself with people that are, leveling up every single day, doing things that you want to do, it just makes your journey so much easier. And, like you said, 10:30 at night, I wouldn't have been there 4 or 5 years ago, but once you do have your why, once you have your passion figured out, it's so much easier to wake up at 5:30 in the morning because you know what you're here for. And I think that's really one of the biggest kind of issues right now. And a lot of people, they have anxiety, they have depression, and I've been there before. And a lot of it is because if you don't know what your purpose is in life, you're not really working towards something. So I don't know how it's even possible to really feel these positive feelings. And, that's how I felt personally. But once you do have that why, you have that purpose, you start taking those action items, it just makes everything so much easier. And obviously the hardest part is figuring out that why, but that's why you're just one opportunity away, one connection away, one relationship away. So I just encourage anyone, especially in franchising, if you think you're capable of those next steps in your career, you think you want something more for not only yourself, but really for your family, business ownership allows you to take those next steps in your career financially, live life on your own terms, and really provide that impact on that local community. Because you're not only changing your whole family dynamic, but you're impacting hundreds, if not thousands of lives in that community, providing a good or service that people rely on. So I just think franchising, I don't know, I'm just get kind of speechless. It's just such a tremendous opportunity that not enough people know about. They just need to be educated on the opportunity, Dylan.
Yeah, dude, it's like the unicorn of business, dude. I swear. Because
Yeah.
if you think about franchising just for a second, it's like, you mean to tell me that somebody put in all the hard work, and took out all those problems, right? It's like I actually was speaking with somebody just recently, and they said, they don't like to say that the franchisor made all the mistakes, right? Because mistake sounds bad. So what he told me was, he said, I like to say that the franchisor took all the speed bumps out of the road and paved the better way for you. And I was like, that was it. I like that a lot. You could steal it if you want. I absolutely agree. But it's funny. I was actually going to ask you to give that like first time if somebody's just thinking about entering the world of franchising, like what would be something that you tell them. And dude, you already hit it. You got, but you're like, we're working like together. We're working like telepathically through Zoom here. I love it, man. Hey,
No, I
well,
love it. But I can definitely add on to that if you want. I think really
hell yeah, go for it.
the biggest thing, and this is what I've been told a lot by people, but it's really the analysis paralysis. People want to discount an opportunity before evaluating an opportunity. And people, I've really learned this recently, really understanding that it's an education process. It's not you go through each step looking for a reason to say no. Because if you're looking for reasons to say no, really in anything in life, it's just other people that are going to be fortunate enough to get that opportunity. Just don't discount yourself before it's too early. And I'll try to make an analogy here. So recently I was in Naples, Florida, driving to Miami, Florida.
Mhm.
Sun rises on the East Coast. It's 2 hours straight drive, but the sun's rising straight in my face. Of course, I run out of contacts, so I'm wearing my glasses. My like sun dashboard doesn't really work. So I'm basically looking straight at the sun and I can really only see like 10, 20 feet in front of me. But it's really just the idea of I knew where I was going. I knew I was going home to Miami. I knew where that was. So you just keep going. You take those small steps, 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet, and you face new obstacles. I may have seen an alligator in the middle of the road. I may have had to go past an 18 wheeler. Obstacles emerge as you take those next steps, but if your end game is maybe business ownership, or you've thought about just taking those next steps in your career, it's a step-by-step process. So don't
Mm-hmm.
sit there late at night. A lot of times, leads will come in at 10:30, 11 at night. And it's like they kind of just go in, they're window shopping, going through a bunch of leads, and they're kind of sitting there, maybe with their significant other, and they just think of all these reasons why it could and then why it couldn't work. But they're making all these decisions without the education process, without the information
Mm-hmm.
to make the decision. I talk to a lot of people right now, especially with the holidays and New Year's resolutions, and people are like, I'm
Yeah.
going to make my business decision in January. But how are you going to make a business decision without the education process? So it really is just, if you know your why, you know what that end game is, just don't discount yourself. Just allow yourself, if you have the mindset, we'll just go through that step-by-step process so that you can feel educated, and don't look for reasons to say no. Like I said, and basically it's a step-by-step process for a reason, because as you do think of reasons to say yes and some reasons to say no, the next step will allow you to continue to validate. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
will say that is a no for sure, but the next step will allow you to validate that. So don't discount
Mm-hmm.
yourself when you're at that first or second step. A lot of times people get on that initial call with a franchise developer, and then you never hear from them again. But I would say, if you looked up a franchise, you made that call, you made that interest, you've thought about business ownership, you think
Mm-hmm.
you're capable of taking those next steps, like, everyone's capable of greatness. You can definitely do it. Just don't discount yourself. Just allow yourself to go through that education process. That I'll just continue the emphasis.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more because I like the term that you use of not discounting yourself. I think that is super powerful, and I couldn't agree more, man. There's tons of opportunity out there. Just because you think maybe you're under, maybe you don't have enough money. You're like, "Oh, I don't have enough money to get into franchising." Dude, there's franchises out there that you can get into for 50, 60K. And guess what? You can still finance that part. Sure,
Yeah.
there's $3 million franchises out there. There's the McDonald's of the world's, the really expensive food joints that everybody knows about. But there's
Yeah.
also thousands and thousands in between those,
Mm.
where there's almost an opportunity for every single person to become an entrepreneur and own their own future. And I think that that's super powerful, man. I think you did an excellent job here today. I do want to, thank you again for jumping on here. Before we get off, though, I'm not sure if you've listened. I do a little thing, right? I think I do a little bit called Ask Chat GPT. Okay. So what I've done, Josh, is I've
Okay,
gone to
that sounds
Chat GPT.
excited.
Yeah, right. It's a little different one. I think this one you're gonna like it, right?
Should I
So what
open
I've
up my
done,
chat GBT for an answer?
you might want to. They might give you a good one. But here's what I've done. I've gone to ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, give me Josh a couple different situations where he has to choose an outcome. So that's all I've done. And this
Okay,
is the situation that ChatGPT wants you to choose from. All right. Ready, Josh?
I'm ready.
So Josh, imagine you are standing at an entrance of an enchanting bookstore. Its shelves are lined with diverse genres and enticing titles. As you stroll through the aisles, you find yourself able to step into the pages that captivate you. You are now, oh, sorry. You find yourself able to step into the books that captivate you. You now find yourself torn between two different books that are beckoning you. Option one is presenting a gripping mystery novel that promises twists and turns that are going to keep you on the edge of your seat. This cover art also hints that there's a very suspenseful journey filled with unexpected revelations. On the other hand, option two showcases a very heartwarming collection of short stories that are going to tug at your emotions. The vibrant cover depicts a scene of love, friendship, and personal growth, evoking a sense of warmth and connection. Now you stand at this literary crossroads, torn between the allure of and entering a mystery, or an emotional renaissance of heartwarming tales? Which adventure are you going to choose?
Dylan, I was hoping for a third option. So I heard the mystery twist, and as I was hearing that, I was hoping the second option of a book would have been something more like fact oriented, like detail oriented, because that's kind of my direction. But I'm thinking mystery, I had to cross that off right away. I'm thinking short stories just because, maybe short attention span. Would rather read just when like a 5 minute span. I'm more big on the audio books while, I can work out and kind of listen to it. So I think something short and sweet to the point. And I like the heartwarming story. You can never get enough romance in your life. Maybe something I need.
That's awesome, man. That's a twist. I actually, when I first read that, I was like, nah, man, Josh is going right for the mystery novel. And Josh is like, nah, man, I'm out. I ain't doing no mystery novel. My luck, I'm going to get stabbed when I'm in that book. I ain't trying to get stabbed today. Hey, man, well, I appreciate you being a good sport on that. Next time, maybe I'll make it 3. How about that? You come on in 1 more year from now. We'll make it 3 different options for Josh DuBois. I love that last name, and that fires me up. But hey, Josh, again, thank you so much for joining the Franchise Happy Hour. Before we log off here, one more thing for the listeners. If somebody is out there and they want to get in contact with you, Josh, and talk about how they can strategically utilize their potential to get out of that career that's holding them back, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, my phone number is 786-789-0744. I would say the easiest way to reach me, my website is JDFranchising.com. And that has my phone number, my email. You can schedule an appointment. But more importantly, it has all my social media. So I post content every single day across all the platforms. So my handle is at JDStrategic. So you can also message me on all those different platforms. I'll respond to you. But yeah, website, schedule an appointment, phone number, social media. I'm here for you. So I'd definitely love to get to know anyone.
Awesome. Well, I'll make it easy for the listeners. I'll throw all that information right in the description. So check that out. So, hey, Josh, one more time, thank you so much, brother. And I always love to end on a little bit of a cheers here. So cheers to another fantastic episode of the Franchise Happy Hour. I hope you enjoyed sipping on the insights and wisdom shared today. Remember that success is best served with the side of happiness. So until next time, keep dreaming big, keep working hard, and keep toasting to the success of your franchise endeavors. Cheers, brother.
Awesome. Cheers, Dylan. Thank you so much for having me.